How's it going, Scott?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good, Scott. Let's get right into it, man, because by now everybody on the planet should know who Scott Ritter is, so we don't have to go into the formalities. Scott, what is going on with YouTube, the censorship, and because I've experienced it myself. They deleted my channel without me knowing anything about it. And my son, the teenagers, they know a lot of things, and he petitioned that, I think it was the FCC or something, and my channel magically appeared back with most of the videos on it. So what is it that you, I would say, quote unquote, that you have done to tee them off in a way to censor you? Because I think this happened after you talked about I think Gonzalo Lira or whatever. So fill the people on what's going on.
Well, I mean, I don't know the exact cause and effect. They took down 2 YouTube channels. I had one YouTube channel that I ran together with a Russian media outlet called Solovyov Live. This was the Scott Ritter Show, a weekly podcast where I would interview prominent Russian personalities, military officers who are on the front line, politicians, academics, people who, in the United States, these are the A-listers. These are the people that go on, Good Morning America and Meet the Press and all that. So, but their voices aren't known to America at all. And so I would interview them and provide an opportunity for a Western audience to see and hear and listen to these prominent people. And if anybody thinks that the interviews were, just softballs, watch a couple. They were good conversations. And anybody who watched them learned a lot from it. That channel was taken down with the excuse that I had engaged in hate speech. There's no hate speech. It was a simple interview with somebody. And, if truth and facts are hate, then I guess I'm guilty. But of course they're not. At the same time that they took down that channel, they took down a totally separate channel. This was the U.S. Tour of Duty channel, where the podcast Ask the Inspector was done. It was a bi-weekly show. We do a 1-hour show on Tuesdays, and we do a 2-hour show on Friday nights. This platform, again, was accused of hate speech. If some people want to make the connection between that and the stance I've taken on Gonzalo Lira, feel free. But I think it's more complicated and more nefarious than that. The Scott Ritter show, even though it actually had a larger audience than Ask the Inspector, and I think we had 86,000 subscribers at the time it was taken down. And its videos, the videos generated, 75 to 100,000 views per episode, which is respectable. It was not monetized. Nobody made a penny off of that show, neither myself nor Solovyov Live. And just so people know, I wasn't compensated for that in any way, shape, or form. This was purely a public service. I felt that it was important that these voices get an opportunity to be heard. Solovyov Live was kind enough to provide a studio and a producer who would arrange for these interviews, and we made it happen. But there was no monetization involved at all with the Scott Ritter Show. Ask the Inspector was different. When we set it up, of course, I didn't know anything about monetization. I'm just a dude that gets on and talks. That's it. And suddenly YouTube sends a check and says, here's some money. And you're like, why? Why would you send me money? They said, well, because you've achieved a certain threshold. And I don't know what that threshold is, but you get a number of, you get past a certain number of subscribers, and then apparently your videos, if they are viewed and if they're on for a certain, there's a whole formula out there that I know nothing about. But they sent a check and they said, you're monetized. I said, well, that's pretty cool. Because who doesn't like free money? I don't think there's a person out there that does. And on Ask the Inspector, we actually, where Solo Live, they ate the expense. I mean, they provided a studio, they provided a producer, they pay the salaries of the people involved in that. They do that. They write for that. Ask the Inspector. Jeff Norman is my collaborator. He's the one that's put it together. There's infrastructure. There's stuff that needs to be done. We have a producer, Ann Moss, and nobody works for free. We pay her, and so we paid her from other sources of income. But now to have YouTube say, "Hey, here's some money," we're like, "Great, we can start paying." We're producing a documentary film. It's always good to raise money for a documentary film. We can start converting that money into that. It was pretty cool. And then you find out things about if you have something with so many views, I guess they give you even more money. And then they offered advertising, and for advertising, all you have to do is read a 30-minute or 30 minutes. Nobody would tune into that 30-second thing. And so, and you get paid for the advertising. At first, when they were like, I'm like, I don't like the idea of advertising. But as Jeff rightly pointed out, he said, "Hey, you're providing a whole bunch of stuff for free. And for this 30-second advertising, imagine receiving that money, what we could do to upgrade, what you could do, pay some bills and stuff. Because last time I checked, there's a mortgage that doesn't go away. There's a car payment that doesn't go away. I just had a daughter get married. That's pretty expensive. I have to feed people. There's utility bills. Life goes on. Life costs money. I can earn an income writing, but I can't earn an income writing while I'm doing things like this." And what Jeff said, and he's always been critical of me by saying, you're giving away the product. Meaning, I'm going on this show, I'm going on other shows, and I'm not getting anything from you. He goes, "You're giving away the product." And I said, "But it's what we have to do. I mean, if there's an audience out there that is desirous of information, and I can be the source of that information, then I have a responsibility as a citizen to make myself available." And he said, "Okay, but you've been giving it away for free." I said, "Well, I'm not going to charge anybody." He said, "That's not my point. My point is now." Because you've told, I told him, I said, "Man, when I'm doing this, I can't write. And writing's how I make money. And if I can't write, I'm not making money, but I'm doing this." He said, "Now you can, if we read this advertisement, you can make some money to offset the time that you spend doing all this other stuff." And I went, "Wow, yeah, I like that too." And so you get lured in, so you see what happens. They monetize you. They send you a little check and they go, "You can make more money." Yeah. Ooh, nice. Then they go, "Here's advertising. You can make even more money." And you're going, "Wow, this is really cool." And then you get the phone call from the, I guess we'll call it the agency, and not the CIA. They're the ones running YouTube. We'll get to that in a minute. The agency, they're the guys that set up the advertiser. They say, "Hey, we got an advertiser willing to pay you X amount of money if you read this 30-second slot." Cool. Then they put you in touch with Talent Scout. And this guy's slick. I've seen it in Hollywood. "Man, you've got $1 million product. Your podcast, I watched it. It's awesome. We just need to tweak it a little bit here, tweak it a little bit there. Whistles, do this, that, and the other thing. You can make $1 million." Now, Rashid, I don't know about you. I've never made $1 million. Never even come close. And the idea of making $1 million is pretty damn cool. And you're sitting there going, "Wow, what could I do with $1 million? I could help a lot of people. I could help myself. I could help my dog. I could help my cats. I mean, nice. What do I have to do for $1 million? Don't worry about it. We'll just tweak. And then they get this whole thing promised up here. Money you don't have, but they tell you you're going to have. But then they come in with the hook. Or they got you hooked. Now they come in with this. "All right, in order to do $1 million, we got to change some things." So, like what? "Well, we got to change this, that, the other thing." I'm like, structural changes. God, okay. I'm like, I'm resisting. I'm going, "Hey, we got an audience right now that's like pretty cool, and we get along with them pretty good, and We're happy with the product. Nobody's claiming. There's some people always telling me, get a better mic. Get a better mic. Right? I could get a better mic if I got the money from YouTube. Stuff like that. But we got a good relation. They're like, now we got to package things differently. And I'm like, okay. It's not, as long as I don't have to change the content. You're just telling me I have to package it. I can live with that. I can do that for $1 million. I can do a lot, But then they came in, and you remember that old comedy clip that George Carlin used to do, the 7 words you can't say on TV.
Oh yeah, HBO.
Yeah.
It's on HBO.
Yeah, we're not allowed to say them because we'll get kicked off. But there's 7 words you can't say on TV. Well, suddenly they came and they said, there's 10 things you can't talk about on YouTube if you want that $1 million. And they listed the 10 things out. Now, most of them I don't talk about anyways. It's not my thing. I'm not saying that they're not important. I'm just saying that that's not my area of expertise. But I wouldn't be allowed to talk about the conflict in Ukraine. I wouldn't be allowed to talk about Russia. And I went, that ain't going to happen, guys. Now you're not just trying to package me up. Look, I understand dressing me up better, putting a bow tie on, maybe growing my hair longer, changing my glasses, whatever it takes. Okay, to make $1 million, I'll do that. If you're going to tell me I have to change what I'm talking about, that isn't going to happen. And that was that was happening at the same time that this in the lead up to the cancellation. And basically the day we said no to content modification, meaning we're not going to change what we talk about. Literally the next day they canceled us. And so I find that to be the correlation, the connectivity there. I did a 2-part documentary on Agent Zelensky, on President Volodymyr Zelensky. The first part, I mean, it got significant views, over like 290,000 views or something like that. Again, I don't know much, but that's a big number for me. Maybe some people are used to 1 million views and all that, and they're like, Scott, that's not that much. Well, for me, it's a lot. 290,000, I like it. The second one was on the way when they age restricted it. That's a technique YouTube uses to restrict. So it's age restriction, which automatically denies you a lot of viewership because people just aren't. YouTube's about convenience. It's click, watch. And if you have to actually log in, age and all that, the views go down, which is a monetization thing. I mean, because if you get 200,000 views, that can turn into a check for $1,000 or $2,000. They did that, and then they just deplatformed it. They took it off altogether. They just removed it, and then they demonetized our channel. And again, the idea of the demonetization took place at the same time the agents tell us how we can make money. So what they did is they lure you in with the promise of money. It's like a drug. You're like, I don't know, any drug you use. Shoot it up. Oh, I'm feeling really good. I got a drug. Scott, come in closer. Yeah, here's another drug. Oh man, I'm feeling really good. More drugs. Scott, you can't have the drugs unless you change the content. Well, I don't want the drugs that bad. I don't want your money that bad. So they built up the potential of money, and then they took it away so that you're going through the withdrawal. And then they tell you how you can make it again and more. So you're like, oh, really? Really? I can get that money back that you took away from me? I'm jittery. And they say, but you got to change what you're saying. And you say, in my case, I said, stick it where the sun don't shine, and cancel. And they canceled U.S. Tour Duty at the same time they canceled the Scott Ritter show, which had nothing to do with this, but because they're both filming, they canceled me altogether. And, people are like, why don't you appeal? I don't want to play with these people anymore. YouTube is as anti-American as you get. Well, actually, that's wrong. They're not anti-American. YouTube is the most accurate expression of America today that one can imagine. The allure of money, the narcotic of money, the get rich but make compromises. That's what America's all about. That's what our foreign policy is. We go to nations and say, here's aid. To get this aid, here, we'll give you a little bit. We'll send in the Peace Corps. So you have those volunteers out there doing things, and you're like, that's pretty cool. And then we'll pump some USAID money into them. Ooh, and then now you're getting sort of addicted to the stuff. You say, how can I get more? How can I get more? Well, we got a whole bunch over here, but you got to do this, 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 and this. There's conditions attached to it. That's how we run our foreign policy. That's how we run domestic policy. Ask any city, ask any state, how many strings are attached to federal money. A lot of strings. It's about behavioral control. And YouTube is that. That's the American model. And it's not the America I stand for, especially when behavior control means content control. It means that they are going to restrict what you can say. The First Amendment is about free speech. And if YouTube doesn't defend free speech, then YouTube is an un-American platform. And that's what it is today. It's about content control. I don't want to play it, so we moved over to Rumble. We'll see if that relationship works or not. But the bottom line is I will not allow anybody to tell me what I can or can't say.
Mm-hmm. Well, why do you think they're so touchy about you speaking on these issues such as Russia and giving a different perspective? Both of us know why, but some people don't understand why they're so touchy. And with you specifically, and especially you speaking on the issues of the Ukraine war, its causes and everything. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, here I might end up sounding like an egomaniac, and that's the last thing I am. I think you know me fairly well by now, so I'm a pretty down-to-earth kind of guy. But let's put it this way. The Russians have tried to get me to speak before the United Nations Security Council on this issue, and I get vetoed by the United States and Great Britain every single time. But they allow other people to come in and talk about it. Why? It's not about the message, it's about the messenger. You see, when I sit down in front of the Security Council, I have a resume that actually means something. When I talk about military topics, I have background that lends itself to that. When I talk about intelligence, national security, it lends itself. When I talk about the United Nations, I worked there for 7 years, it lends itself. They don't want me speaking because when I speak, the words are backed up by the person. The person has a tremendous amount of credibility, and they don't want to deal with that. They'll let other people come on, and then they attack them. They say, you're just this, you're just that, but you're not serious. It's the same thing on YouTube. We have there's a guy out there, I won't use his name, but former Marine. He repaired electro-optic equipment for the Marine Corps. Important job. We need our electro-optical equipment to work. It's very important. And I mean that in all seriousness. But now he's out there doing geopolitical analysis. And saying, I'm a Marine, therefore I am a geopolitical analyst. No, you are an electro-optical repairman. That's it. They're not silencing him because nobody takes him seriously. Because there's no original content there, because he is simply taking what other people have said and repackaging it and putting it out there. Therefore, he is no threat, because at the end of the day, when people bring him up, he's an electro-optical repairman. That's it. There'll never be more than that. I come in, I'm an intelligence officer who has dealt with arms control at the international level, national level, who's dealt with major military programs with conflict. I've briefed presidents, I've briefed general secretaries, I've briefed national leaders. And so now when I come in and say, and I also, to be honest, come up with original content. That's what analysts do. Electro-optical repairmen aren't analysts. They repeat what other people say. I'm not criticizing the guy. It's an important thing. But I come up with original content, original analysis. To give you an example, back when this conflict started, I, like many others, said it was going to be over quickly. I looked at it and I went, Russia's going to roll through these guys like a hot knife through butter. War is going to be over. Who knew that wasn't what Russia wanted to do? I looked at it from a military perspective and said, Russia has the capacity to defeat these guys and end this war. Russia wasn't trying to do that. Russia was trying to get a negotiated settlement. So they did a completely different conflict, and it made people like me look stupid because we're out there going, they're going to be in there in 7 days, and then they weren't. But you know what professional analysts do? See, what happens, electro-optical repairmen sit there and they continue to hammer the point because they don't know how to think. They're simply repeating what other people say. Analysts take a step back and go, why didn't this happen? What happened here? Let's look at the data. And then you examine the data and you reevaluate the data and you say, okay, I'm adjusting my analysis, and you come out. And then you get closer to the reality. But, you're still going to make some errors. You adjust again. By May of April, May of the conflict, when it was May, actually, when the United States said we're going to provide $45 billion worth of military assistance to Ukraine, I said, this is a game changer. I didn't say that Ukraine's going to win or that Russia's going to lose. I said, this changes the game, because Russia in March had reprogrammed itself away from getting the negotiated end because Ukraine backed out of it. Boris Johnson flew in. The 1 April peace treaty that was supposed to end the war went away. So Russia recalibrated to a grinding war of attrition to liberate the Donbass. That was the goal. And they were succeeding. And I was saying, Russia's winning. They're going to achieve their objective and all that. But then $45 billion worth of equipment, training for 60,000 troops. I said, this is a game changer. And then I said, Russia doesn't have sufficient forces dedicated to the task to account for this, that this is going to cause a problem for Russia, that the war that they were going to win is no longer winnable in this fashion. And everybody, Ritter's flip-flopping. No, I'm just a good analyst. I'm an analyst, a professional who knows how to receive new data. Like, ready, guys, let me educate you. In April, there wasn't $45 billion. May, there was $45 billion. That means you need to reevaluate the situation to say, how does $45 billion change things? But the amateurs, the electrical optical repairmen, they basically say, no, we're sticking to this. This is what we've done because that's what everybody else is saying. And my job is simply to repeat what other people say. No, your job, if you're an analyst, is to be original. Think for yourself. And I did that. And I was attacked across the board. And I said, no, this is a game changer. Well, guess what happened in September when that $45 billion manifested on the battlefield? The Ukrainians kicked the Russians out of Kharkov, recaptured the right bank of Kherson. Game changing. Didn't mean Russia lost. It was a game changer. And then Russia did something different. They partially mobilized 300,000 troops, together with an additional 180 to 220,000 volunteers. What did I say at that time? That's a game changer. When those troops come onto the battlefield, it's going to push things back into Russia's favor. Ritter's flip-flopping. No, guys, it's called analysis, a trained analyst. And so, this is the danger that I pose, because I bring experience and a very professional approach to assessing the situation to the table that nobody wants to deal with. They're not going to let me before the Security Council because I will crush the British and American representatives. They know that. In a stand-up debate, I crush them. I'll crush anybody that they put on TV right now. Put me up against General Petraeus. Put me up against Ben Hodges. Put me up against Spider Marks. Any one of them. I'll destroy them in a straight-up debate because they're talking heads. They're no longer professional analysts. They get paid to repeat what's being fed to them by producers. I'm original thinking. I base it in a foundation of experience and expertise. And that's why they have to silence me. And that's why YouTube shut me down, because things were happening on Ask the Inspector that they didn't want to happen. Voices were starting to listen, or people were starting to listen to my voice